the further decline in the inflation figure provides more room for further cuts in the monetary policy rate, because I mean, what Bank of Ghana tries to do with the cuts in the monetary policy rate is to impact cost of capital, which is to say reduce cost of capital so that private sector businesses and investors would have access to capital to then invest in the economy, and by so doing to grow the economy, right? And once the inflation is down, it creates a bigger room for further cuts, because if the cuts gets close to the inflation or impacts other interest rate like the T-bills, right, which sucks out liquidity from the system to the point that the T-bills rate begin to drop below inflation, for instance, then of course it doesn't make sense for people to invest their short-term liquidity in those instruments, and they'll prioritize consumption instead, which would then introduce inflation, what we call demand pull inflation. The other side would be that they may then begin to speculate that it's better to hold their monies in USD, which happens to be perennially a better store of value than the CD, and that would then also reverse some of the stability that we've seen on the FX side. Okay, so as to whether it is excessive or not, it's not down to a particular ratio or figure. It would be down to Bank of Ghana monitoring the impact. If it continues to have the impact of, increasing supply of capital to private sector, and for private sector to then invest to expand the economy, create jobs, make goods and services more available at reasonable price, then of course they can continue cutting down the rates. As far as the impact on interest rates is not to the effect that it brings it down so close to the inflation or below the inflation, which will create disinvestment. It will just create a negative impact to what is actually expected. So as to whether it's excessive or not, it depends on the impact, that we'll see. And Bank of Ghana will monitor him as soon as they feel that the impact that they are getting from the market is beginning to dwindle, or it's beginning to, nail out. They probably will hold back, and if needs be, they will reverse the trend in terms of the monetary policy rate cuts.